Welcome back to another episode of BreBre Talks MMA. I am still processing what happened on Saturday night. Our short king, Volkanovski, lost the featherweight title in his 6th title defense. This was not only the first time that Alex Volkanovski has lost a title fight at 145, but this is also the first time that Volkanovski has lost a fight at 145. His other losses were at his other losses were at welterweight and lightweight. And the 2 losses at lightweight were both to Islam Makhachev. First fight was a close decision. The second fight, not so close. It was a first round head kick knockout. So I can't say I'm in shock because I knew that Topuria did have real talent. I just didn't know if he was there yet as far as experience goes, because Volkanovski has a ton of experience, not only in MMA, but just in 5-round title fights. So to me, that's always the big question mark is that experience going to work in your favor? Like it did for Jack Hermanson when he fought Joe Pyfer. That experience worked in his favor. But in this situation with Volkanovski, it seems that experience is more now sort of turning into a wear and tear kind of situation. And I don't know what his health looks like. I mean, he says he's healthy, so I assume that means he doesn't have any injuries. At least I hope not. I mean, I don't think it didn't look like he sustained any injuries other than being knocked out, possibly a concussion, but it didn't look like he tore anything or broke anything from what I could see. So I mean, I still think he needs to take probably a little while off. I think he should have taken a little more time off leading up to this fight, but it's not my job to tell a fighter, how soon they should fight or whatever, because I don't know their situation. And that's something that I want to talk about, because I have seen people already calling for Volkanovski to retire, which I think is absurd. I mean, the guy loses 2 title fights in a row, and before that had the impressive win over Yair, which was arguably, I would say, his best performance was the fight against Yair. And yeah, so he loses to 2 of the absolute best in the world. One of those fighters is undefeated, and the other one is the champion of the toughest division, or I don't know though. Like I was saying last week, I mean, you could argue that featherweight could be tougher than lightweight in a lot of ways, but I mean, it's not a competition. It's just interesting to talk about these things. But I think it's a little ridiculous to, first of all, I don't think it's our place to tell a grown man what to do with his career. I mean, Alex Volkanovski is an adult. He's perfectly capable of making his own decisions. So I don't understand why when a fighter loses once or twice, then all of a sudden the fans decide it's time for them to retire. It's time to hang it up. I just don't quite understand that. And of course, I care about the fighters' longevity and their health and all of those things, but at the end of the day, I understand how fighters are, how they operate, and they think a little bit differently than most people do in a lot of great ways. But one thing that I think is very difficult for fighters is, to find something else, when they're done fighting. Because in Volkanovski's eyes, he might have been like, okay, when I'm 38, after I've, won the lightweight title, I'm double champion, then I'll retire. That's probably what he was thinking. So now his whole plan has been derailed. So for you to tell him, hey, hang it up, I mean, just think about how that sounds. Put yourself in Volkanovski's shoes and think how you would perceive that and how you would receive that. You know, and I'm sure Volkanovski handles it extremely well. He's all class. And that's one thing that I really admire about Volkanovski is he is, you know, a class act. And he handles his losses very well. And even though people were saying he was making excuses, you know, when he said he was drinking, like, gosh, this sport, people do not appreciate these fighters while they're here. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from that is I just don't think it's our place to tell a fighter when to retire. I think that is up to them and their family, their coaches. I mean, you guys think they don't have these conversations? I think that they have people in their life that is their role is to help kind of guide them, you know, in certain situations, you know, whether it be what fights they should take. Like a lot of times their management and coaches are helping them make those decisions. And then, you know, talking with their coaches about their career plan. I mean, any good coach is talking about those things with their fighter. So I just think that, yeah, it's a little arrogant, I think, for people to say that Volkanovski should retire after losing. I mean, I understand he got knocked out twice in a row. I get it. But I think he just needs to take some time off. I don't think he's done. I don't think he has like a ton of time left in his career. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong on that. Hold on. I need some water. My mouth is dry. Oh my gosh. My hair in my face. Anyways. Sorry, guys. Had to hydrate. But I just have a regular sparkling water today. Nothing fancy. I don't have any Zevia. I'm pronouncing it correctly now. I was pronouncing it Zevia, and it's actually Zevia. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know how many times I've pronounced fighters' names wrong. It's been so many times. But anyways, so Volkanovski retirement, like, this is just ridiculous. Like, also what people don't understand is that this is their livelihood. This is their career. This is how they make money. This is how they support their family. Volkanovski has children. He has a wife. He has a family to support. So his decision to retire, you know, may have a lot to do with his situation with like, okay, where do I want to send my kids to college? Like these kinds of things. Like I think people forget that this is how they make a living because they have to dedicate their entire life to the sport. They have to make so many sacrifices in order to do this. So that's why they should get paid a lot of money to do it. And I don't want to be one of those people that's like always talking about fighter pay, even though we should talk about it because, yeah, fighters are underpaid. I mean, I think the reason why they're underpaid is just because it's a young sport. But I don't want us to get comfortable with fighters being paid what they are and expect them to evolve to an elite level and still accept the same offers. You know, it doesn't make any sense. They're evolving and the sport is becoming much more technical. It's getting to the point where it's really small things that can really alter their performance. So I feel like that should come with a pay increase. So, and that's not just the UFC. I mean, I'm talking all promotions across the board. Fighters in general are just not paid that much. They're just like, you guys really need to learn about how the local and the regional scene works, because when you experience a little bit of that, then you really start to realize how bad the fighter pay actually is and how much time they still have to spend in the gym in order to compete on that level, and still they're, barely making any money. And all the people are, well, why don't they just get a real job? Okay. You're going to go tell Tony Ferguson to get a real job. By the way, didn't he go to Harvard for a minute? How did he get what was he doing at Harvard? I really want to know about this. I really want to know more about it. Because I haven't seen him post anything else about Harvard, but I don't know. But it's like, who are you to tell somebody to get a real job? What if somebody told Michael Jackson to get a real job and we never got Thriller and we never got, shut up. I hate when people say that kind of, oh God, it makes me so mad. Get a real job. Then don't ever turn on a TV ever again, because you don't deserve to be entertained if you tell people who entertain you to get a real job. You don't deserve to be entertained then. Seriously, it's like, what? I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, they think it's easy. No. It is not. I don't know. I think people's perception sometimes of athletes in general is a little crazy. But especially fighters. I mean, they're human beings. Like, a lot of times they have to have full-time jobs. That's what I always tell people. I'm like, they're so underpaid that even at an elite level of competition, they still have to work a full-time job a lot of times. Unless they're rich, then, good for them, because then they don't have that problem. But it's a real problem. There's a lot of fighters that would be a lot better if they didn't have to work a full-time job, because they would have the time to train on an elite level. So yeah, it makes it really difficult for them to balance, a lot of things. And like I said, I get it. I know what people are going to say, but I just feel like nobody ever sticks up for the fighters. And you know what? I guess it'll have to be me. Because if the fighters stick up for themselves, then you guys just talk even more trash. Speaking of talking trash, I saw that Lucas Tracy did a video about MMA journalists, and he was just kind of rambling, so I don't even remember a lot of the things that he said, but he pointed out a couple different MMA journalists. One of them is a friend of mine, Gabriel Gonzalez, who's an excellent journalist and a well-respected reporter in the MMA community and in the journalism community in MMA. So I'm very confused why, he wouldn't know that. And that just shows you that he doesn't actually know anything about how MMA media and journalism works. Because if he did, then he would be networking with these people instead of making a video talking trash about them on YouTube for clicks. I mean, it's just a little sad. Like, when you really think about it, it's kind of sad. You're literally making fun of people whose job you want in order to get people to watch your channel of you also doing the same thing with other various topics in MMA. It's just a little sad. I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? But I just got to say, Gabriel Gonzalez is the man. Gabriel Gonzalez not only is a super fan, which that was one of the things that Lucas Tracy said. He was saying, "Oh, they should get a super fan like me to go." I'm like, do you not think that these MMA journalists aren't super fans? A lot of them are. I would say most of them are. Yeah. And that's why I think it's good as an MMA journalist, and maybe this is a good learning point from all this. I think it's good to share content of you talking about fights too, because then people know, oh, this isn't somebody that's just doing interviews. Like, you're actually a fan. So I don't know. Maybe that's something that would help journalists to be appreciated a little bit more, because I do think that, I don't know, the term journalist gets thrown around so much, and it's like, well, is that actually a journalist you're talking about, or is that just some random person with a Instagram and Twitter account that has a logo or whatever? Like, maybe that's not even a journalist, it's some dude, you know? It's just some random person. Like me. I mean, I'm kind of just some random... No, not really. I actually technically am a journalist now, because I have done... I am published now. I do have one article. So technically, I am a journalist now. Just saying. And you will probably be seeing me at some events this year. Probably. I don't know which events. Still figuring it all out. But you will see me at some events, both local and hopefully UFC. So that'll be exciting. Let's talk about, gosh, there's so much going on. Let's keep going on the Lucas Tracy thing, actually, because you know what? I'm not done there. I am not done. I still have more to unpack with that. Yeah, I think it was just kind of a desperate attempt to hopefully get a reporting job, I guess. I don't know if I guess that's what he was trying to do. I don't think that's how you should go about it, though. You know, there's much better ways to go about it. Yeah, you actually probably made it more difficult for yourself, actually. So, I don't know. Probably not the right move. Yeah. But you know what, though? Like, here's the thing that Lucas Tracy doesn't realize. Why would you want to be a reporter when you can just do YouTube? Like, just do that. Why would you want to go interview at events? Like, somebody's probably going to punch you in the face. And I don't know. It might be Ian Gary. Who knows? But it's like, no, fighters don't want to do interviews with journalists that aren't respectful. And I'm not even saying that Lucas Tracy would be disrespectful, but it's just when you have that sort of attitude toward fighters, I think that's a huge problem in journalism. I don't think you should be involved in MMA journalism if you have any sort of negative attitude toward fighters. I just think that would be a huge mistake, for sure. And you know what? It might get views, it might get clicks, but at the end of the day, is it helping the sport? Is it helping the fan base? No. You know, that's just bringing even more toxicity to the fan base that we don't need. We already have enough toxicity in the fan base. We don't need any more of it. So that's my 2 cents on that. And the thing is, we don't need this to be the WWE. Like, he was complaining about the journalist questions, saying they were boring questions and whatever. I guess he thought the journalists were trying to be too respectful to the fighters or something. I don't know. Whatever he said. I can't remember. But my point is, here's the thing. And I know I keep going on these little rants because, you know what? I'm feeling it. Here's the thing about journalism. MMA journalism. MMA media. MMA media, yes, it's for the fans, but really it's for the fighters. It's to give the fighter a platform to talk about whatever they want to talk about their training camp, to talk about their life, to talk about their experience, to talk about, you know, just whatever is going on. And, you know, sometimes they'll talk about their goals, what they want next. You know, they want to call out an opponent. It's for the fighter. You know, it's their opportunity to give them a voice. That is what media is for. Media is not for your entertainment. Don't get it twisted. There is entertaining media. There are clips, there are moments at press conferences, there are all sorts of things that make media entertaining, but media's purpose is not entertainment. It is to give the fighter a voice. The more we humanize fighters, the better the fan base will be. And I think in a sport like mixed martial arts, you have to demand respect from the fan base. I just think it's not, and I think you should have respect from this fan base in all sports, honestly, but particularly in mixed martial arts. Just because I know the toll that it takes on a human being to do this career, how short their career is, how devastating of injuries they can have when they're in this career in boxing. You know, there are deaths every year in boxing. So, sorry guys, I got out of breath for a second. That was a lot of talking. But you get what I'm saying. It's, the fighters should be respected. And the fact that they're not even allowed to stand up for themselves is just ridiculous. You know? And I don't think that as a journalist, you need to ask the juiciest questions or, you know, stir the pot. Like, I don't think you need to do that to be a good journalist. I absolutely don't think you need to do that. I think you need to give the fighters a voice. I think that's how you be a good journalist, is give the fighters a voice and tell their story. Help them tell their story. Because the less human these fighters seem, the more toxic the fan base will be. So it's not going to change until we start to humanize the fighters more. I think that is a huge part of it. Anyways, I don't know. I feel like the thing is that, like, I talk to a lot of fighters. And Lucas Tracy, I looked on his channel. I don't see any fighter interviews. You know, and I have a second channel, by the way. This is not my only channel. My other channel is where I have all my fighter interviews. And you can search my name and it'll pop up. But I don't know. I don't even know. Lucas Tracy. Come on, dude. I just think that it's very apparent when someone does not interact with fighters and they want to be involved in media. I think you can do it. You can definitely do it, but you need to be careful of what you say, I think. You know, you can be critical. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with having an opinion. I'm very opinionated myself. And I think that's good. It gets people talking about the sport. I think that's good. I would say you should probably familiarize yourself with the local scene and the regional scene a little bit before you really start to expect anything to happen, you know, with like interviewing UFC fighters. Like, I think you should have to do a couple local shows before you can, you know, go to the UFC or anything like that. So, if Lucas Tracy does want to get involved in MMA media and wants to be a real journalist, then yeah, he should probably start covering some local shows like everybody else did. I've covered local shows. Gabriel Gonzalez has covered shows in his backyard in California. So, yeah, I mean, I think that I just don't like people disrespecting people that I know work very hard and, just basically trying to discredit their career. It's just ridiculous. Without knowing anything about them, without doing any research, of course, just assuming, because before I started talking about Lucas Tracy, I did some research and I couldn't find any fighter interviews. I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find him covering any local shows that I am aware of. So if somebody knows where that is, then send it to me, because yeah, I mean, you don't just I don't know, man. It's just like, it's kind of pathetic to make fun of somebody to try to take their job. Really? You think that's how you get somebody's job? It's ridiculous. Gabriel Gonzalez is with Cage Side Press, by the way, which is honestly one of my favorite media outlets these days to follow. Okay, getting back to the actual fights. Let's talk about the co-main event. So this was an absolute, I would call it a war. It was a technical war, but it was a war, I thought, between Paulo Costa and Robert Whittaker. And Robert Whittaker ended up winning this fight. I feel like that was the right decision. He definitely looked like the more technical fighter. He looked like he was a step ahead of Paulo Costa most of the fight. However, Paulo did connect and land some big shots, landed some beautiful kicks, and he also looked really technical, I thought. So it was an interesting fight, and it was exactly what I expected. I expected it to be technical. I expected it to be a little bit of a war in its own way. But it was a beautiful fight. I mean, I saw that matchup, and I was really excited because I've been wanting to see that fight for a long time. And then another fight on the card that I really, really enjoyed was Mackenzie Dern versus Amanda Lemos. And Mackenzie Dern, she's third-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. Amanda Lemos is more of a power puncher. She's got incredible knockout power. And there were a couple times where I thought Mackenzie Dern was going to go down. I mean, she hung in there. So it was a fantastic fight. And I agreed with the decision. I thought Lemos won, but I wouldn't have been surprised if they gave it to Mackenzie. So yeah, it was awesome. And then Merab Dvalishvili versus Henry Cejudo. Merab, oh my gosh, he is so good. Merab, he puts on a pace that I just don't know if anybody's going to be able to keep up with him. And he's only getting better. I mean, he picked up an Olympic gold wrestler and took him down and carried him across the octagon. That's insane. So I really enjoyed that fight. And I think that Merab right now, I would consider him probably the best bantamweight right now in the UFC. I think he is the best bantamweight right now. I think he beats anybody in that division. And I know that's a hot take, but I don't know. I think he's really, really good, and I just don't see him losing anytime soon. I definitely think he should be next for the title. Absolutely. Anthony Hernandez versus Roman Kopylov. This fight was absolutely insane. Anthony Hernandez started smiling when he had Kopylov in the choke and sunk in the rear naked choke, and it was beautiful. I mean, he smiled right at the camera, and then it was over. So yeah, that was awesome. And then I'm trying to think, there was, Danny Barlow. He made his debut, and it was exactly what I expected. It was the left hand to God. It was insane. And he said that he broke his arm in the beginning of the first round, which, if that's true, I mean, that's crazy. Miranda Maverick with a beautiful performance. I thought she looked great on the feet. She threw a really strong variety of strikes, to the head. She was throwing to the body. She was throwing leg kicks. Andrea, I thought she did a great job just kind of, being tough and also reversing and defending a lot of Miranda's takedowns. I mean, if it weren't for Miranda's striking in this fight, on the ground, I thought Andrea looked phenomenal. But in the striking, I thought Miranda was clearly ahead of Andrea Lee. But at the end, Miranda almost got finished. It was very close. And that's the thing about Andrea. She's very good on the bottom, and she's got some crazy flexibility too. So she was able to just kind of like wrap her legs around Miranda really easily. So it was interesting. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great card. Oh, I forgot about Jeff Neal versus Ian Gary. Not the most exciting fight in the world, but pretty much exactly what I expected. I thought Ian Gary won. I didn't really think it was that close. I mean, I could see how people would think that, but I didn't think it was that close. Curious to see what's next for Ian Gary. I don't think Colby Covington really makes sense. I think Shavkat versus Ian Gary makes more sense than that. But I don't know. I don't know who they're going to match him up with next. I mean, I don't know if Wonder Boy makes sense either. Because then it seems like he's just not fighting anybody that's really like in their prime. So I think he should probably fight somebody that's in their prime next. But I don't know. Honestly, I don't really care. But let's talk about the UFC 300 main event, Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. I told you guys, I've been saying this for quite a while now, that was going to be the main event of UFC 300, and I'm happy with it. Honestly, I am happy with the main event. I don't understand why people are like what they were expecting. I mean, it's during Ramadan, so there's a lot of options that we normally have that we don't have because of that. And it has to be a title fight, in my opinion. So, yeah. I mean, I think people, I guess, maybe they were expecting Jones versus Ngannou, but it's like, come on, guys, be realistic. Let's be realistic. That's never going to happen. Never going to happen, but just saying, I told you so. I told you Pereira would be in the main event. I told you. But anyways, that is all I got for you guys this week. So I will be back next week. We've got Brandon Moreno versus Brandon Royval is the main event. So super excited for that fight. That is going to be amazing. And it looks like a great card too. So super excited. But I've got to run. So I will talk to you guys next week. Thank you for listening, watching, however you consume this. And I will see you next time.